This is Mark Carrington from GoForForexProfits.com. I was asked a question by one of my Steemit followers yesterday to investigate what is going on in this company called Apex Mining, which is a Philippines-listed gold and silver mining company. So I was sent a chart, and here's the chart from Bloomberg. It says Apex Mining, and it is a 5-year chart. And what we can see from the 5-year chart is that what I always do is I just see that price has been moving progressively downward over those 5 years. There have been two attempts to establish a bottom, so establish a bottom, run up, drop back, establish a bottom and run up. And the important ones then are, let's look at that one there. So that is from the beginning of 2016, and then we've got a big run here. Let's look at that a little more closely on the 1-year chart. So remember, January 2016 is when we started to see this bottom here. So I'm going to go across to the 1-year chart and just get a better picture of what is actually going on here. So we can see the January is not quite on the chart here because it starts in February, but price has been moving up and then it's got a dramatic jump here. And then it starts drifting down. So there are two things that I want to try to understand. Is anything that has driven the change in direction of the economics of this business from January 2016 and then again in June 2016. So the first place to have a look is the gold price. And this is a gold and a silver mining company, but I'm going to focus on the gold price for now. So the chart we have here is gold against the US dollar. The chart is actually a monthly chart. As you can see, it goes all the way back to 2002. So each bar is 1 month's worth of data. And what we can see from here is that price has come from a level from 2003, 4, 5, 6 and is steadily headed upwards, and then has broken out of that uptrend and has been tracking downwards since the peak in 2011, and then this attempted a further peak in 2012, and we see another one over here. Now while I'm on this chart, I'm just going to draw a few levels in here. And the levels are around these reversals. So that's the first one, and this is the next one. And a reversal is when a chart's been going in a particular direction, reverses and starts going in the opposite direction and starts making higher highs and higher lows if it's going up. So you can see here we were making lower highs each month, lower lows with the exception of this one to that one, and then it reversed. So that's a reversal. So these lines here become important because that tells you the range of movement that the price has been in for over a period of time. And this one is actually quite a long period of time because it goes from the middle of 2013. So we'll remember the date that we were looking for. The first date of reversal that was important for us was January 2016. So January 2016 that's December, January. So that coincides with the reversal. So the first part of explaining what was going on in Apex Mining, this reversal here was the change in the gold price. Very simple, easy to understand. Now let's have a look and see what was going on here in June 2010 and see if we can explain it by the gold price. So I'm going to put another vertical line in here and we're going to go to June 2016. So there's the vertical line, June 2016, and we can see that price has actually gone up in July and August, which changes to a weekly chart, so we can have a look at that a little more closely. So my two vertical lines have stayed in the same place. We can see the band in which the gold price has been moving, and we can see there was the reversal. So that's totally explains the first part of Apex Mining's chart. We do have a little bit of a pullback on the weekly chart in the course of May, but for the whole of this period, the gold price has continued to rise. So through to July, and it was only in July that it started turning off, and the gold price has then been drifting down until December of 2016. So we've got a low here, December of 2016. So let's step back across to the Apex chart. Let's go onto that 1 year chart and see what it's going on. So we've got a jump here, which is partly explained by an improving gold price, and then the steady drift down, which will be explained by the drifting or the falling gold price. But more to what I think is that yes, it is explained partly by the reduced gold price, but it's also about understanding what this big jump was here. Now I'm going to have a look at that in a couple of ways. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a look and say, was there anything going on in the Philippines? And I'm going to particularly look. So the website I'm looking at is tradingeconomics.com. And I'm actually just going to look at the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Philippines peso to see if it's explainable by the exchange rate. Now this is US dollar against the peso. So if we have, when this chart is going down, it means that the peso is strengthening against the US dollar. So we certainly have, so from January 2016, we've got the peso getting stronger against the US dollar, and then it flattens out, and then it went in the other direction, and it was getting better. And this coincides here with the election result, and then it was getting significantly weaker. So what I would expect, if the peso is getting significantly weaker and against the US dollar, and the gold price is sort of tracking sideways or even going down a little bit, and this is quite a large percentage change here, 46 to 49, so it's a 6% percentage change. That's a fairly large change, and that may, the mining company that is selling gold, which is paid for in US dollars, converting them back to pesos, so is getting more pesos for their dollars, its revenue numbers and its cost numbers should be looking better, not worse. So it's not to do with the currency, it's to do with something else. So let's start digging what the something else will do. So what I've gone to is I've done some searches on Apex Mining. I did one first for 2016 to try to understand what was going on, and I found this article. The article is actually dated 17th of November, and they reported its consolidated net income for the first 9 months of 2016 surged to almost 4 times compared to the same period last year. Stronger metal prices, it says, accounted for and boosted the revenue. And silver prices had also moved up. So gold price had moved up and silver prices had moved up. And so this is for the first 9 months. So that certainly explains this jump. The dating is, so these numbers are in the performance. So the stock market had already factored in that dramatic improvement in performance. And And if we have a look a bit further on, here's a report from the 9th of January 2017, Apex Mining quarterly operating revenue 986 million pesos versus 598, and the profit was 158 versus a net loss of 4.4. So that is a report around the probably the third quarter of 2016. And there's one underneath, which is also a little bit of a flag for me. It says Apex Mining says Security and Exchange Commission has approved the company's application for equity restructuring. That's dated 11th of October 2016. I do not have detail about this, but I suspect that part of what was going on here is this restructuring was not very comfortable for people in the markets. The next, so what that's telling me is it's not driven by price, it's not driven by the currency, it's gold price that is, it's not driven by the currency, it's driven by factors that are internal to Apex Mining. So the next thing I've done is I've had a look at Apex Mining's information. I'm using the financialtimes.com, so ft.com, markets.ft.com, and this gives me a summary about the business, giving profile of the business. The important part of what I want to do with this business is that I want to have a look at its main competitors. So here down in peer analysis we have the main competitors, and I want to use, so here's Apex Mining down here at revenues of $3.3 billion, market cap of 15 billion, I think these are dollars. Doesn't actually say what it is, but that's okay. So I want to compare it to the one that's closest in size. So this one here I've picked is Philex Mining Corporation. It's also a Philippines gold mining company, and I want to have a look at its chart and see what its chart looks like. So here we see that very similar rundown. This is now a 3-year chart, that very similar rundown. And the turnaround in January 2016, as the gold price turns, we see the same run up, not as steep. This is just a steady build from there, and then it has been tracking sideways. So if I have a look at the, and I'll use exactly the same chart format. So it all looks familiar to us. It's the 3-year chart format. So there's the running down here, the turnaround in December, January 2016. This is a much more rapid, and then it has dropped off. It has not gone sideways. So just a reminder, Philex has gone sideways. So there's something going on inside the Apex business that is not happy. So that's ultimately what my analysis is, and it's a question of just reading and following what is going on to understand what the possibilities are. The next thing to do is to, if one's already invested in a situation like that, well, the choices are, when something's going down like this, is to just bail out and to jump onto someone else's doing better. Or you do need to ask the question is this business going to trade out of it? And we do need to dig into what's actually happening on, because if they've got mine problems, trade union problems, market access problems, they're never going to trade out of it. But the important dimension of trading out of something is what is going to happen to the share price, and driven by the gold price. Now, I'm never one for being comfortable about choosing which way prices of any commodity are going to go. And I'm just going to go back to basic principles, and let's just kick around where this one might go. So I'm going to go back to our chart, and I'm going to get rid of those lines because I don't need them anymore. I'm going to leave those lines in there, and I'm going to start drawing some trend lines in. So I'm working on a monthly chart, and the first trend line is this one that goes from the bottom. So we'll pick one there, we'll draw it through that low there. We could have chosen to draw it through, some people like doing them like this. And the principle of drawing a trend line is you pick a low, because I'm working on a monthly, find the points where it touches, and then just draw it out. Because I've done this on a monthly chart, I should actually paint them yellow. The important part of either of these trend lines is it's very clear that the price is no longer going up, it is now going down. So if once we've proved that it's now going down, I'm going to ignore those, and I'm now going to draw the trend line in for the downtrend. I'm going to make them green, and I'm going to step to the weekly, compress them in so I can see the whole of that downtrend. So there you can see the whole of the downtrend. So you can see it's drawn pretty well from the top. So it's off that last high. It goes through it needs to go through the top there, that one there. It's got a touch there, and it's got a few touches here. Sometimes it's better just to draw them so there are actually a few more touches there, so it doesn't quite go through the top of that one, but there, that works for me. So we'll clearly have a trend line. You can see it there very clearly. Now what price tends to do is it tends to cycle on these trend lines. So basically what we're expecting to happen is that to keep cycling down there until there's something that tells it that it's going to break through those levels. Now as we're running down this trend line, what we've noticed is that we've got a low here. That one's lower. This one's a little bit higher, but this low is lower, this low is lower, this one is lower. This low here is lower, this one's lower, this one's lower. So where the reversals are, for the most part, each of those lows is a new lower low. And this one here is not a lower low. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw another trend line in here. Because this is made a lower low, so there is a possibility that this could be turning over. And so one of the lines of one of the models for analyzing things is a thing they call a head and shoulders. This is an inverse head and shoulders. So we go from there to there, the left shoulder, to there, the head. So some people like to describe that sort of movement as a head and shoulders. Personally, I don't think it fits really well, but the importance of a head and shoulders, this is an inverse one, is it can be an indication of a change of direction. Quite frankly, I'd rather just say that this here is an indication of change of direction. Now I'm going to put an indicator on this chart because I want to test and see if the momentum has changed. So the indicator I've used is called MACD, and basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see if the highs and lows on MACD match up. So here we've got a lower low, and this is the lower low, and this one here which coincides this, which is a higher low, this one is lower. So I'm going to just draw two quick arrows on the chart. This is the one I'm talking about there, that one there, and that one there. And those are inconsistent. So the momentum indicator is telling me that this is there's still potential for it to head downwards. So it's hard to say whether gold price is going to be heading upwards or downwards with any conviction, and we're probably better just to think that it's going to be doing this zigzag. And I'll draw in another horizontal line here now that I'm sitting on a weekly, which I'm going to join up to some of these. Let's just join that one on there. I'll make it a green because it's a weekly line, and we can see there's a reversal there, there's a reversal there, and there's a reversal there. That is starting to look like a fairly solid level, so that's one level for arguing that it's going to run upwards. We can't really be sure what it's going to do, because it can absolutely just be doing, it could do this, test that and come back down, or it could do that, break out and go up, or it could do this and break down. It's hard to tell. And this shape here, this triangle shape, is the area of the most concern. So how does that help us in dealing with Apex Mining? When we're sitting here and the stock is basically tracking sideways. Well, there may be some similar clues, because if I start drawing lines on this chart, I've certainly got lower highs, but I also have higher lows here. So I have the same triangle pitching up here. So we don't know whether this is going to break down like this or break up like this. It's just impossible to tell. So there's my review on Apex Mining. It's impossible to tell, but what I am going to do is that in the summary, I suspect what happened here is this massive jump was based on the availability of new information about how the performance was doing. The market has reacted very strongly to that reaction. Very strongly means it's gone from 2 something to nearly 4, so it almost doubled. So often when markets overreact like that, they start to look for the equilibrium level, and I'm going to draw it as a bracket because typically what happens is that equilibrium level is at the halfway mark on the width of that overreaction, and I suspect that's exactly what's happening here. Is that the level that the price is at here is now a new equilibrium level. So as an investor in Apex Mining, I'm looking for two pieces of information. I'm looking at what's happening to price, to gold. So if I see that gold breaks up, then I'll feel confident that this is breaking up. And then I'm going to understand what's happening to cost. So I got to go and read every single notice that comes out of the business as to what's going on with costs, because if costs are rising, price is going to do this. If costs are under management, then the price will do this. It will go up. So that's where I'd be focusing. My thinking is following the gold price, looking for the signals that it's going to go up, and if it is going to go up, I expect this to go up, and to understand what management is doing about cost. I hope that helps.